Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. An old human figure was suspended in the sky. That familiar face carried a little nostalgia. It was surprisingly Yao Lao, who had been in a slumber within the ring for 2 years. At this moment, the body which Yao Lao had agglomerated was clearly more substantial than before. From the powerful spiritual strength, which was faintly emitted from within his body, one could tell that his slumber these past 2 years had also caused Yao Lao's strength to increase significantly. "It's you." Medusa was startled when her gaze swept over Yao Lao's face. She immediately pressed her eyebrows together and inquired in surprise. Yao Lao laughed. He raised his head and eyed Xiao Yan, who had fallen unconscious. A pleased look was on his face. Although he had descended into a slumber, he was still able to sense an energy moisturizing his spirit in his unconsciousness. Who else other than Xiao Yan would use this kind of action to swiftly aid him in his recovery? "You are not bad either. Your strength has actually soared to such an extent after sleeping for 2 years." Medusa coldly laughed. She glanced at him. Originally, she had thought that she would definitely be able to surpass this mysterious old man once she was able to merge with the spirit of the heaven-swallowing python. However, she did not expect Yao Lao's spiritual strength to become increasingly stronger after being in a slumber for 2 years. "Why are you still remaining beside Xiao Yang now that you have already merged with the spirit of the heaven-swallowing python?" A flicker flashed across Yao Lao's lowered eyes. He was extremely clear of the enmity that Medusa held toward Xiao Yang. She was still afraid of him when he was around, and she had to be a little cautious even if she wanted to act. However, given Xiao Yang's strength, it was difficult to guarantee that this vicious woman would not have any other thoughts given Xiao Yang's strength. Medusa also understood the cold reprieve within Yao Lao's words. She was a haughty person and might listen a little if one spoke nicely to her. However, once one's tone was not to her liking, she would give the other party a cold face regardless of who he or she was. Hence, she also lifted her bewitchingly beautiful face and coldly replied when she heard these words of Yao Lao, "What has it got to do with you that I am staying here? However, the old me does not have the time to argue with you now. We can settle our score once I wake this little fellow." Yao Lao's gaze looked in all directions, before his gaze suddenly paused on a crimson medicinal cauldron on a huge rock between the cliff wall. He could not help but let out a surprised. He beckoned with his hand. A suction force appeared out of nowhere, as that enormous medicinal cauldron automatically flew up, and was suspended in front of Xiao Yang. This medicinal cauldron, Yao Lao's hand gently rubbed against the numerous carvings of lifelike beasts roaring with lifted heads on the medicinal cauldron. The surprise on his face was even richer a moment later. He could not resist speaking softly. "This medicinal cauldron, why does it look so similar to the 10,000 beast cauldron recorded on the heavenly cauldron ranking?" Yao Lao clearly had an eye that was many times sharper than Xiao Yang when it came to knowledge of medicinal cauldrons. The latter could only sense that the medicinal cauldron was extraordinary. "I have not seen him for 2 years. It is really unexpected that this little fellow's spiritual strength has already become this strong. It is really formidable. However, I wonder exactly what level his strength has reached." Yao Lao exclaimed and shook his head. He watched Xiao Yang's throat roll as the young man swallowed the medicinal pills. The latter's eyes were still tightly shut. Xiao Yang's breath was currently in his most weary state, and the dou qi within his body was almost completely exhausted. Hence, even with Yao Lao's sharp senses, he was unclear of Xiao Yang's exact ability. While Yao Lao was muttering, Xiao Yang, who was in an unconscious state, suddenly emitted an intense cough. His eyelashes immediately trembled. A moment later, his tightly shut eyes slowly opened. Xiao Yang's gaze was once again clear. The first thing that was imprinted into his eyes was the extremely familiar old smiling face in front of him that caused Xiao Yang to be completely at ease. Xiao Yang raised his head a moment after he saw that familiar kind old face. He looked at the sky and let out a long breath. After releasing a long breath, it seemed as though all his worries and the pressure he faced were completely removed as he leaned his weak body on the tree trunk behind him. He smiled and said to Yao Lao, "Teacher, I haven't seen you for 2 years. Are you well? Yao Lao's gaze stared intently at the cold, stern, young face that had gained an additional maturity compared to 2 years ago. He knew that during this long period of time in which he was in slumber, this little fellow, who had been relying on him before, had completely transformed into someone with the qualification and strength to be independent. Yao Lao's warm shriveled hand gently patted Xiao Yan's head. He spoke with a pleased smile, "Little fellow, you have done well." Xiao Yan merely rubbed his head awkwardly in the face of Yao Lao's praise. He struggled to sit up, but the waves of weariness that were emitted from his body caused him to helplessly shake his head. He lifted his eyes and suddenly glanced at Medusa a short distance away. He immediately smiled and said, "Thank you for rescuing me, Kaylin." Although Xiao Yang had fallen unconscious when he had fallen from the large rock, he was still able to vaguely sense that Queen Medusa had come to his rescue. Medusa did not show any reaction to Xiao Yang's thanks. She merely responded in a faint voice, "I did not rescue you. It is he who has saved you. Moreover, I am only thinking of obtaining the medicinal pill which you have promised to refine for me." Xiao Yang clearly understood the tough character of Queen Medusa, and was too lazy to dispute with her. He turned his head to Yao Lao by the side and asked with a smile, "Teacher, your strength has improved." Xiao Yang smiled when he saw Yao Lao's joyous face. He hesitated for a moment before suddenly speaking in a soft voice, "Moreover, teacher, this disciple has also finished off that person who betrayed his teacher." The soft voice immediately stunned Yao Lao. It was a long time later before Yao Lao exhaled with all his strength. One could not tell whether his expression was one of grief or relief. His hand slowly but heavily patted Xiao Yang. A low, solemn, old voice that caused one's heart to ache resounded by Xiao Yang's ears. "Thank you very much, little fellow." Xiao Yang smiled as he observed Yao Lao's relieved expression. He roughly described the situation back then. However, Yao Lao's eyes narrowed and his expression immediately changed when Xiao Yang spoke about the appearance of the people from the Hall of Souls while he was killing Han Feng. "You said that Han Feng's spirit was taken by a member of the Hall of Souls." Yao Lao knit his brows and spoke with a solemn face. Xiao Yang nodded. His heart became worried when he saw Yao Lao's serious manner, and he could not help but carefully ask, "Why? Teacher, is there something wrong?" Yao Lao knit his brows and mused for a moment. He seemed to be considering something before he slowly spoke, "If it is like this, it is likely that Han Feng did not die so easily." Xiao Yang was startled. He discovered where the problem lay and immediately asked with a frown, "Teacher, you mean that the Hall of Souls will help him revive? You should also be clearly aware that when a spirit has reached a certain strength, it is able to leave the body and remain alive. Of course, one's strength would be greatly reduced. This is similar to my current condition. Moreover, the Hall of Souls clearly possesses a deep understanding for spiritual bodies. Although I am not certain about why they want to capture the spiritual bodies that roam the continent, it is clear from their attack tactics that they clearly possess a great damaging effect toward spiritual bodies." Yao Lao voiced his thoughts. Hence, it is difficult to say for certain that the Hall of Souls would not use some unusual method to allow him to remain alive in this world now that Han Feng is in their hands. This Hall of Souls is actually so troublesome. It really is an oversight. Speaking in this way, it is likely that Han Feng is not completely dead. What a pity. Xiao Yang knit his brows and smiled bitterly as he shook his head, sighing somewhat regretfully. There is nothing to feel pity about. From a certain point of view, you have already killed him once. Even if he remains alive with the help of the Hall of Souls, his actual strength will definitely be greatly reduced. Even if he wanted to do something, it is likely difficult for him to pose much of a threat. Yao Lao shook his head and immediately spoke with a serious face. Xiao Yang nodded his head and laughed softly, "Teacher, I have already merged 2 kinds of heavenly flame. Can I help you refine a body that can accommodate your spirit?" Yao Lao was startled when he heard these words of Xiao Yang. He immediately felt somewhat gratified in his heart. He rubbed Xiao Yang's head and spoke with a faint voice, "It might be barely possible if there are 2 types of heavenly flames, but there should not be much of a problem if my bone-chilling flame is added. However, the ingredients needed to refine a body are really far too rare, and even frightening. Therefore, we cannot rush this." "What are the ingredients needed?" Now, I am also in possession of some strength within the Black Corner region. Perhaps I can get someone to look for them. Xiao Yan inquired. These things are not things that can be obtained by just searching. Yao Lao laughed bitterly. However, he could only helplessly nod his head when he saw Xiao Yang's earnest gaze. He said, "There are not many things you need if you want to refine a body that could truly accommodate my spirit. It only requires 3 kinds of things." Xiao Yang hurriedly became focused when he saw Yao Lao lift 3 fingers. He immediately gave Yao Lao his ear as he listened carefully. First, bone-growing blood-fusing pill. Second, the blood essence of a rank 7 magical beast. Third, the skeleton of an elite dozong. Yao Lao also smiled as he saw Xiao Yang's stunned expression. He also knew just how shocking these 3 ingredients were to Xiao Yang, and was thus not very surprised. He merely comforted, "It is extremely difficult to get a hold of these things. Hence, I have said not to rush. I am already very gratified that you have this thought. In any case, we still have lots of time left. We can slowly find them." Xiao Yang's expression gradually recovered. He rested for a moment before laughing bitterly. He felt a giddiness in his head. The blood essence of a rank 7 magical beast. This was equivalent to an extremely powerful dozong. Moreover, the essence blood was something that a magical beast relied on to survive and grow. It was just like the fresh blood and bones within a human body. Once this thing was drawn out from the body of a magical beast, it would naturally immediately lose its life. Hence, if one was to summarize in this manner, one must kill an extremely powerful magical beast that could contend against an elite dozong if one wanted to obtain the blood essence of a rank 7 magical beast. But Xiao Yang had not even met a magical beast of such a rank even once since he was born, much less discussed killing it. The skeleton of an elite dozong, this ingredient also caused Xiao Yang to be similarly speechless. An elite dozong could roam unhindered over the land. Xiao Yang's face carried a bitterness as he nodded. He sighed, "I will remember all these in my heart. If I get the opportunity, I will definitely think of methods to gather all of these ingredients in the future." Yao Lao smiled slightly and said, "It would naturally not be this troublesome if one were to refine an ordinary body to accommodate a spirit. However, the stronger one's spiritual strength, the more stringent the requirements of the body. Currently, my spiritual strength is quite strong." Yao Lao seemed to have guessed some of Xiao Yang's thoughts when he saw that joyous face of his. He immediately shook his head and said, "You can stop daydreaming. Do you think that it is really so easy to ascend to an elite dozong? If I really possessed that kind of strength, they would also treat me seriously if I went to your little girlfriend's clan to help you propose marriage." Xiao Yang was startled. His heart immediately shook a little. From these words of Yao Lao, he could vaguely sense the frightening strength the mysterious clan that Sun belonged to. They would only treat him seriously if Yao Lao reached the dozong class. In other words, it was actually difficult for them to view him seriously by just relying on his dozong's strength. Xiao Yang knit his brows intently and sighed in his heart. Just what clan did that Sun belong to? It was actually strong enough to cause an elite dozong, who was enough to dominate the continent, to be this afraid. Looks like I still have an extremely long journey to travel. All right, little fellow, there is no need to think so much. With your talent, I believe that you will sooner or later possess the ability to truly be comparable to that little girlfriend of yours. Ha ha, a 20-year-old elite Do Wang. One might not dare to say that such an achievement is yours alone in the continent, but it is sufficient to look down on a countless number of people. Yao Lao smiled and comforted Xiao Yang when he saw the rapidly changing face of Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang nodded slightly. He raised his head and stared at Yao Lao. His mouth moved. That manner of his where he spoke intermittently was as though he wanted to say something. "I know that you are very interested in that clan of your little girlfriend. However, there are some things that aren't beneficial to you if you are told now. I can only tell you that the clan of theirs is one that has existed since the ancient times." Xiao Yang nodded. He mused for a moment before he suddenly took out a scroll and a strange-shaped jade bottle from his storage ring. There was a medicinal pill that appeared to be agglomerated from fresh blood quietly lying within the jade bottle. This medicinal bottle actually holds traces of an energy seal. This medicinal pill, Yao Lao's gaze stared intently at the jade bottle the moment it appeared. This was especially when his gaze swept past the scarlet medicinal pill within it. A solemnness gradually surged onto his old face as he suppressed his voice and quietly asked, "Teacher, this medicinal pill is something that you have mentioned to me by chance back then, life-devouring pill. Xiao Yan's expression also became quite solemn. His voice was also suppressed until it was very soft. Only the two of them could hear it. It is indeed this thing. Yao Lao's eyes shrank. He slowly inhaled a breath of cold air. He had already faintly guessed something from the appearance of the blood-colored medicinal pill along with the medicinal bottle that contained the traces of an energy seal. How did you manage to get a hold of this thing? According to what I know, this medicinal pill had mysteriously disappeared with its creator on the continent back then. Yao Lao knit his brows. His gaze suddenly turned to the scroll by the side as he said, "Don't tell me that this is the medicinal formula." "Yes. This is the medicinal formula of the life-devouring pill. Xiao Yan nodded his head and said helplessly, "This thing is something that my second brother had obtained deep in the mountains. It is also because of this that I want to ask teachers for help. Don't tell me that your second brother has consumed this medicinal pill." Yao Lao smiled bitterly, and could not help but rub his somewhat painful head when he saw the increased helplessness on Xiao Yan's face. He sighed. This life-devouring pill might be able to allow a person to become an elite Do Wang within an extremely short period of time, but it is obtained by exchanging all of the remainder of one's life. The lifespan of a person who has consumed this medicinal pill would be at most 3 years. My second brother only has 1 year of life remaining. Xiao Yan's expression sank as he spoke softly. Back then second brother thought I had died when I stuck underground. The clan's revenge had yet to be taken. In his despair, he could only risk his life and swallow the life-devouring pill. Yao Lao smiled bitterly. Why did all the offspring of the Xiao clan possess such unyielding characters? Teacher, don't tell me that there is really no means to undo the effect of this life-devouring pill. Xiao Yan's gaze looked at Yao Lao as he asked in a somewhat urgent and expectant manner. Xiao Yan opened both of his eyes. The two substance-like clusters of dark green flame shot out from within. An instant later, however, the flame emitted a suo sound and shrank back into his eyes before the light swiftly faded away. Moreover, he had reaped an unexpected reward. Just before he had stopped earlier, Xiao Yan clearly felt a faint feeling, the Do Qi in his body becoming a little more powerful than before. Although he was still at the peak of the Do Wang class, each level had a difference between the upper and lower levels. It was just like a water bottle with a level scale. Although the water within it had reached the level of a certain marking, there was still quite a large gap between this marking and the next one above. The increasingly more powerful Do Qi was just like the repeatedly rising water. Sooner or later, it would rise to an even higher marking. At that time, it would be the moment that Xiao Yan broke through to the Do Huang class. Due to the soaring of his strength in the past and Xiao Yan falling into a near-death state for 2 years, he had difficulty controlling the strength within his body perfectly after he had awakened. Hence, Xiao Yan had appeared to have entered a dead end all this time. It was difficult for his strength to rise even a little regardless of how he trained. Although I have practiced this open mountain seal for such a long time, I am still only barely able to grasp it. It is indeed worthy of being a DI class high-level Do technique. One faces many difficulties practicing it. Xiao Yan's figure paused for a moment in the sky. A pair of beautiful jade-green wings shot out from Xiao Yan's back. He flapped them gently and stabilized his descending body. The current 3000 lightning movement should have already reached the second level, the instant lightning level. I really don't know when I will be able to enter that final level, 3000 lightning. Xiao Yan lowered his head and studied the flickering threads of lightning under his feet before he sighed and spoke. He really yearned for that level in which he obtained the frightening speed that Yao Lao had mentioned upon complete mastery of the 3000 lightning movement. Little fellow, have you finally recovered your strength? Yao Lao's laughter suddenly sounded while Xiao Yan was musing. The sound of rushing wind immediately sounded as a somewhat illusionary human figure appeared in front of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan smiled and nodded as he faced the smiling Yao Lao in front of him. Looks like not only have you completely recovered from your injuries, but your strength has also advanced. Yao Lao raised his brows as he observed the little glow that was hidden in Xiao Yang's dark black eyes. He spoke in a somewhat surprised manner. When are you planning to return? With your current strength, you already possess the qualifications to challenge the Misty Cloud sect. Yao Lao's gaze was filled with gratitude as he observed the young man in front of him. He felt like sobbing in his heart. He recalled the young man back, then who needed to always borrow his strength in order to mix with the upper echelons of the Jioma Empire. Now, he truly possessed the strength of someone strong. 2 kinds of heavenly flames, a DI-class Qi method, and various kinds of profound Do techniques by his side. The Jioma Empire could no longer restrain him. Soon. I can leave once I have settled some issues in this place. Xiao Yang smiled as he replied softly, currently, I also have some strength within the Black Corner region. This time around, I will be bringing quite a number of experts back. The Misty Cloud sect has many strong people. Moreover, it also possesses quite the strong gathering ability within the Jioma Empire. If I were to return alone, it would be difficult for my pair of fists to defeat 4 hands. It is fine if it is me alone. If I cannot defeat them, I can turn around and flee. However, the members of the Xiao clan remaining within the Jioma Empire cannot. Hence, there must be no accident this time around. Yao Lao studied the smiling young man in front of him with some surprise. A moment later, he patted the latter's head and spoke in a pleased voice, little fellow has indeed grown up. You are no longer that impulsive child you were back then. You are now actually able to gather such deep thoughts about the entire situation. Back then, Xiao Yang had descended into fury because of his father's disappearance. He senselessly charged up to the Misty Cloud sect once again, and killed the first elder Yunleng, who was the only one who could have known where his father was. Not only did he end up completely losing the trail of his missing father, but he had also caused the relationship between both parties to completely break apart and break down to the extent where they were now mortal enemies. This was indeed rather reckless. Compared to himself back then, not only did the strength of the current Xiao Yang progress greatly, but his character had also become much more mature and cool. In 3 years, the young man back then had transformed into a strong person who truly had the ability to act independently. Teacher, thank you very much for what happened in the past. Xiao Yang was also somewhat embarrassed in the face of Yao Lao's words. Now that he recalled what happened back then, he had indeed committed quite a number of reckless acts. Yao Lao had not only not tried to persuade him otherwise, but had instead accompanied him as he went on a rampage. Now that he thought of it, Xiao Yang did not have anything but gratitude in his heart toward this teacher, who had performed his duty to the best of his ability. Rat, why are you saying such words now? Can a young person be called a young person if he is not impulsive and reckless? Yao Lao slapped his hand on Xiao Yang's shoulders and scolded with a smile. Xiao Yang also smiled slightly when faced with Yao Lao's relieved, happy smile. He slowly turned around and threw his gaze to the distant north. There was an empire thousands of kilometers in that direction called the Jioma Empire. In it was a sect called the Misty Cloud sect. Misty Cloud sect, just wait. Soon, we will meet again, Brother Xiao Li. Thanks to the medicinal pill auction idea sometime earlier, the population within the current Feng City is sufficient to squeeze into the top 3 of the Black Corner region. Feng City wasn't able to achieve such a peak even when the Black Alliance was occupying this place back then. A rough laugh sounded within the hall. The person who was speaking had bare arms, with a tattoo of a fierce lion roaring toward the sky on his chest. His appearance was surprisingly the gang leader of the Wild Lion Gang, whom others called Wild Lion Tai Wu. After Tai Wu's laughter sounded, the leader of the Dark Sky sect and Luo Shogate, who were seated beside him, also smiled and nodded. Within a short 3 months, the profits that they had obtained were even richer than what they had obtained during the last half a year. This was all because they were collaborating with Xiao Gate. Chief Tai is too courteous. All of us are simply getting what we need. Xiao Li, who was seated in the leader's seat, smiled and replied upon hearing this. Tai Wu and the other 2 smiled. It is really unexpected that Brother Xiao Li was able to even recruit the 3 Yao brothers. It causes others to be envious. However, they had offended the Gold-Silver brothers a few years earlier. Therefore, there aren't many factions within the Black Corner region who would dare keep them. The current Xiao Gate is the only one which possesses such a strength. The shadow-faced old man from the Dark Sky sect, who was called Old Yin Jiyu, glanced at the three people behind Xiao Li and spoke with a smile. Xiao Li smiled, waved his hand and said, "The three Yao brothers aren't under my command. They have merely come to Xiao Gate as guests." The so-called three Yao brothers did not even raise their eyebrows, because of the conversation within the hall. That manner was as though the conversation of Xiao Li and the others had nothing to do with them. "Brother Xiao Li, it seems that we have not seen any traces of Chief Xiao during these 3 months. This Black Corner region is overly chaotic, and Feng City is currently attracting so much attention." Episode 49 Part 1 end here.